Hello everyone. Tonight we're working on Module 4, Lesson 10, and our goal is to compare and evaluate expressions with parentheses. And we are going to do this in several different ways. First, we're going to look at tape diagrams and write expressions that go with the tape diagrams. We're going to look at words and write expressions that go with the words. And then finally, we're going to compare different expressions to see if they are equal. We're going to start off with this tape diagram. Now, I have the whole. I'm trying to find out a part, but before I can do that, I realize I have a little math to do in order to find out what my whole is. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is add 9 plus 11. And since I have to do that first, I'm going to put that part in parentheses. And then I have to find out what 3/4 of that number is. So I could write my expression as 3/4 times 9 plus 11. Now, of course, I could also write 9 plus 11 times 3/4 because the commutative property of multiplication tells me it doesn't matter what order I do this in. So to solve the expression, I'm going to go ahead and add 9 plus 11, which is 20. And then I'm going to do the multiplication of the numerator by the whole number and show that I'm going to divide that by 4 when I'm finished by using 4 as my denominator. And 3 times 20 is 60. So my fraction is going to be 60 over 4. And of course, 4 will go into 60 15 times. So and that means that if each of these parts, if all the parts together equal 15, that means there's going to be 5 in each box. And since I know that 9 plus 11 is 20, 3/4 would be 15. So I just wanted to make sure that my solution matched up with my tape diagram. On the quiz, you will need to solve or write an expression to match this tape diagram and solve it. You're going to have to do that before you go to the quiz because I can't create a tape diagram on the quiz for you to look at. So right now, I need you to look at this tape diagram, write the expression, and solve it, and then you'll have to transfer that to the quiz. We're going to solve or write in another expression coming from a tape diagram. This time we know the part and we're trying to find a whole. But as you can see, we have to do a little bit of math to find out what the parts are. Down here we know that 1/3 minus 1/4 is what each of our parts are going to be. So that means that it is the part that I need to put in parentheses. I have to do that first in order to reach my whole eventually. And then I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So whatever 1/3 minus 1/4 turns out to be, I have to add that together 5 times or multiply by 5. So my expression will be 1/3 minus 1/4 times 5. And then in order to solve it, of course, I have to have a common denominator to subtract. We're reviewing a little bit of Module 3 right now. And so 1/3, I'm going to multiply that by 4 over 4. And 1/4 will be multiplied by 3 over 3. And when I do that, I get 4/12 minus 3/12. And I've got to do that first before I multiply by 5. And 4/12 minus 3/12, of course, is 1/12 times 5 is going to equal 5/12. So I know that there are 5/12 as my total, because I just figured out that there was 1/12 in each of these 5 parts. Once again, for the quiz, I cannot draw a tape diagram on the actual quiz itself, so I need you to take a look at this slide, and you can see that it's similar to the last problem we did. We have the information we need to figure out the parts, and our ultimate goal is to find the whole. So you're going to need to figure out, use parentheses to show what part to do first. Look at the tape diagram to see what you need to do next to find the whole, and then you'll need to solve your expression and write both the expression and the solution as your answer to the quiz. Now we're going to move on to looking at words instead of tape diagrams and finding a way to turn those into expressions that involve fractions. So the product of 4 and 2 divided by 3. And you notice that this comma after the 2 is serving to group the product of 4 and 2 together. And then a separate part is divided by 3. So that comma is really, in this case, a bit of a hint about where I need to put my parentheses. Now I'm looking at the words product, which means to multiply, and of course divided means I have to divide. And in order to do the division in the second part, I must do the multiplication in the first part. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm dividing. So that means that 4 times 2, remember, product means multiply, so 4 times 2 has to come first, and then I will divide that by 3. And we're going to write that as a fraction. So that would be 4 times 2 over 3. And of course, that equals 8/3. And we'll have to put that into simplest form. So 3 goes into 8 2 times, and we have 2/3 left over. So the answer to our expression, here's the expression, our original expression, and here's the answer. Here's the problem that will be on the next quiz question. 1/6 of the sum of 16 and 20. So I need you to look at this. Think about what's the part that I have to do first. Make sure that you put parentheses around that part. Remember what the word sum means, because that tells you what operation you'll have to do for that part of the expression. And then you can go ahead and solve it. On the quiz, I would like you to put your expression and the solution. You don't have to show me all the parts, but you need to show me your original expression and the answer. The parts in between you can do on your scratch paper. The last skill we'll be practicing today is comparing two expressions to see if they're equal or if one of them is larger than the other. And as you can see, I have two expressions here, 2 divided by 3 times 4. Same numbers, same order, same operation symbols. The only thing that's different is the presence of the parentheses in the problem on the right. So let's take a minute and create the tape diagrams that go with each problem first. So the problem on the left, 2 divided by 3 times 4. I can see that the last operation I'm going to need to do is to multiply by 4, so that ultimately the thing I want to do is find a whole. and that times 4 tells me that I'm going to have 4 parts, and they're all going to be equal, and each part is going to contain 2 divided by 3. In other words, 2/3. Now we're going to take a look at the expression on the right and draw a tape diagram that goes with that one. So for this one, since it is a division problem, that means that we know the whole, which is going to be 2. And we are going to be dividing it up into parts, but we don't know how many parts yet. And then we want to find out how much is in each part. So the first thing we have to do to find the number of parts is multiply 3 times 4, which of course is 12. So we know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go up to 12 parts. And then 2 divided into 12 equal parts will equal how much? So that's the difference between the tape diagrams. In one of these problems, we're actually finding the whole, and in the other one, we know the whole and we're finding a part. So let's go ahead and solve the problems with numbers. 2 divided by 3, which is the same as 2/3, times 4, will be the same as 2 times 4 over 3, and that will equal 8/3, which of course, in simplest form, 3 goes into 8 2 whole times, and we have 2/3 left over. So the answer to our first expression is 2 2/3. The second expression, 2 divided by 3 times 4, we can write as 2 over 3 times 4, because this is the same as 2 divided by 3 times 4. And then we're going to figure out what 3 times 4 is, which of course is 12. 2 divided by 12. And that's our fraction for this one part here, but we have to put it in simplest form before we're finished. And I know that 2 will go into both 2 and 12, so the answer in simplest form is 1/6. So you can see that even though these two expressions had the same numbers in the same order, the same operation symbols, since those parentheses changed the order that we did things, our answers were quite different. All right, the last quiz question is actually going to be a multiple choice. You're going to have 4 different expressions to choose from. 5 different expressions, and there will be more than one of them, which is correct. And you want to figure out if they are equal to 4/5 times 7. So you may be able to just reason it out. If you are good with the properties of math, you may be able to look at the expressions and just reason out whether or not they are equal to 4/5 times 7. If that is not your strong point, then before you take the quiz, you're going to figure out exactly, solve it, 4/5 times 7. What does it equal? And then you'll need to look at all the expressions, solve them, and see which ones are equal and which ones are not. Good luck with the quiz, and I'll see you all tomorrow.